Hello there folks, welcome back to another video. FM22 has not been announced as a recording, but there's been ideas floating around the community and I wanted to collate some of those and talk to you about them in a video. My name's Ben and we're going to talk through your feature suggestions for FM22 as it's not too far away. If they don't bring it out, I get a year off. So, I mean, think about it, Miles. Have a think about it. So the way to find this out then, I tweeted out what features would you like to see in FM22. I'll be reviewing your suggestions for a video this week. Some of you are mental, by the way. Some of you have got some of you don't understand what the game is. Some of you have got some really good suggestions. So, you know, figure out which category you want to be in and let's talk through some of these. All right, this one's got 17 likes, right? So some of you have gone through and liked some of the suggestions. So we'll go for some of the ones that have got more likes. Mick, who is a football manager icon, has been around forever, What is this, Mick? Putting your voice in the game as to when you give the touchline shouts, it sounds like you. When I'm encouraging or demanding more, I want to hear my sultry tones, like you do on the old LMAs. Also, you can pick what you say, like fight like beavers, lads. I mean, that last bit, he's just thought, I'll just add a little bit extra there. I don't want to blow Mick's mind here. You know, when you do the shouts, like, you know, demand more, you could just say, demand more, as it happens. And I don't know why it being in game is a factor. You'd have to go through and record every voice. I don't think you've thought it through, Mick. Is this the level of suggestions, by the way? Is this the level? Okay. If I had to put this in a category, it'd be in the no category for now. The no column, right? Over here, yes column, no column. First one, Mick suggestion, talk, use your own voice. Just talk. I don't care if it's 4 a.m. and you should have been to bed 3 hours ago. Do your own talking. This is like people that want commentary. I do not want commentary. Have you played FIFA? I hate the commentary on there. Do you know how repetitive commentary? Anyway, sorry, we're moving on. Someone here, by the way, will have suggested commentary. All right, Brian here, the ability through player interactions to ask for players to consider pay cuts. I think he's already said, yeah, you can kind of do that already. You can ask them to lower demands. They don't really do it. I just think player interactions with players, especially when it comes to transfers, should be a little bit more intuitive. When I've lost 3-0 and then one of my star players comes to me and goes, I don't know, boss, I've been thinking, new contract? You've put in a 6.3, sunshine. I don't think so. That should never be a thing, generally, right? And sometimes I find the locking in of certain things a little bit unrealistic. Like, I can't imagine players with... Like, sometimes you've got a star player who's obviously worth hundreds of millions of pounds, it feels like, and they go, yeah, I'm going to lock in a £90 million release fee. It's like, hang on a minute, no, you're not. Stop this now. You're not going to do that. I think player interactions generally could be better. They could be a little bit more contextual to the point in which you're at. Sometimes it feels like they're making decisions based on the fact they think the club is either far better or far worse than it actually is. And maybe the excuse for football manager here is some footballers are stupid, so they don't necessarily know. But as a manager, I find it very annoying to manage. So I'd like there to be a little bit more logic to some of the decisions made. Okay, C Maggio, custom databases in draft mode, of course, as the creator of the Streamer Showdown. Good to see you all. I would like to see that as an off point there. Group stage format in draft modes, opposition instructions in draft modes. Draft modes, very defined way of doing it. With the Showdown, we take the game and put it into Football Manager, the main Football Manager. In draft mode specifically, it's quite a watered down version of things, to the point where we move it for the Showdown. I think I would like to see a more fleshed out version of draft mode exist. I think draft mode generally should be a little bit more akin to the real game, but again, that's something that I think hopefully will be worked on in the future, but we never know. Maybe the various Football Manager tournaments will have an impact on that. I would like to see it though. I think custom databases right now, you can only use what is set in stone. There needs to be some sort of formula for prices and things like that. I think that if you put in custom databases, it would work it out as you go along. But yeah, not many people use draft modes. That might be one of the reasons why. Okay, Ian's come in. Better set piece management. This is one that I've seen a lot over the last few hours of putting this tweet out. Auto-organised by height, jumping, reach, heading. Of course, if you've got bigger players for different roles, you want those players there all the time. You should be able to mark it maybe as best header of the ball based on jumping, reach, heading, maybe decision making as well as a potential option. I agree with that. Rest and fatigue, clearer to manage fitness. I think that is, I just don't think people use it. Do you know what I mean? No, that's what I mean. So in the training section, and this is a screen lots of you won't have seen before, there is a rest option where you can change things based upon the heart level that they are. So if they're on a certain level, right, you could do no pitch or gym work, which is essentially resting, right, for that time. If they're on a higher level of fitness, you can increase the intensities. as I'm sure you've seen, if you've ever watched me play Football Manager, I will go through on players, like specifically, right, if these conditioned players here are struggling a little bit, I will select them all and I will go to training and I'll rest them for a day. You can do that automatically, but no one really does. That's our fault, not their fault, I feel like. Again, this is an option in training. If you were to look through, you would find it. Not many of us use it. You can see there now it says in training intensity, 1 day of rest. So they will not play in their next training session. You do have to be aware of that they are going to miss what happens in that training session, though. So be aware of your schedules as well. I'm in this national break at the moment, so that doesn't really help. But you get what I'm saying. I think that's interesting about some of the suggestions that I've seen is that some of them are there. We just, like, especially if you're a new player, you would never look to find them, or you just wouldn't realize they were there. So that is something that FMF have to overcome, and it's such a deep game now. I don't know how that happens. More media influence when it comes to finances, etc. Social media drives merch sales. I saw a few like this actually, in terms of that when you bring in transfers, when you're bringing big players, there should be more detail on that. We have to realize though as a community, right? We have to, we'll come to another thing about career mode, or sorry, chairman mode at some point soon. We have to realize that it's a manager simulator versus a game. So there has to be an element of fun and an element of realism, and they try and merge the two, right? When you're looking for real deep data on social media, right? And because when a player is signed now, the social media buzz, and whether that's the reason people sign players, like we've all done it in Football Manager, where you sign a player from Asia, right? You sign a big name player that's coming towards their end of the career, boost the shirt sales, right? Get the fans on board, maybe increase the likelihood bigger players will join you because your reputation will increase based upon those buys. All those things happen in the game already. When it comes to more detail in the social media influence they have on their reputation and social media, that's something I think could maybe exist, right? If a player's personality is involving in what they're like in social medias, that could influence whether you keep a player around, or how sort of in love the fans are with that player, whether that player should play more if they're really good on social media. That's not something I think a manager thinks about, but I think as the game evolves and changes, that's maybe something we should see. I'm not sure Jurgen Klopp cares how many followers Trent Alexander-Arnold's got on Instagram. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure when we sign Kanate as our only signing, does his Instagram blow up? Does his Twitter have infinitely more people follow it? I don't think that's something that goes into the minds of the managers when they're trying to pick a team for a match day. But as a game and as a simulator, should that information be more apparent? And legally, how do they get around that without using actual numbers? I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting though. The social side of things, very, very curious. Okay, here's one. I saw this loads, and this was liked by loads of different people. Six likes on this particular one, but I saw another post that was very, very similar. And I've got quite strong opinions on this, but I'm also willing to change my opinion slightly, right? That under 23 and under 18s management, right? That's the first thing I'm going to read, and the first thing I'm going to focus on is wanted and been talked about for as long as I've been doing content, right? Probably before that as well, that you should be able to become the coach of an under 18 or under 23 manager. Now, what we need to realize firstly, and I'm going to break this up into 2 points of what that would include, and then whether it should be a thing. So when you're an under 23s manager, you get to sometimes pick the tactic, because sometimes as a senior manager, you can say, play this tactic. And then you can pick the team and the tactics that are involved for the team that's been selected. Sometimes you'll be given players from the more adult teams, right? Or the more senior teams. Sometimes you'll be bringing through prospects at a younger age and integrating them into the sides. And that is it. And I don't necessarily, maybe training. Maybe you could do a little bit of training as well, perhaps, right? That's kind of it. You don't get to scout players, sign players, buy players. You don't get to do anything else, really. You are just, you just become a coaching staff member. And that, to me, isn't very fun. And I don't necessarily see the value in doing that. If you want to take control of that while being the senior manager, you can do that. I understand the argument of, it's realistic, right? Players do, or players who become coaches start off in that role, and then they move up the ladder. And would it be quite cool to become the under 18s, the under 23s, and then the first team manager? It might be interesting. I'd also call it boring. I also think it's not that fun to have very limited involvement in all. Let me give you an example. The buttons you see on the left-hand side of this, right? Your inbox would be involved just injuries, potentially, and maybe training reports of the youth players that you've got. You would have a squad screen in the same way that you would for any age group, right? The development screen would be probably there as well. But then you get into a point at some stage where you wouldn't necessarily need a team report for the senior squad. You wouldn't need a tactic screen outside of the one that you have for your team that is changing week on week depending on who the senior manager is allowing to drop down to your level, maybe just for fitness reasons. Staff responsibilities, nothing to do with you. Training responsibilities, arguably, if you're a senior manager, you're setting the training for all levels of the football club. They might be very little to do with you. Medical centre, I mean, yes, you would have a medical centre fixture list. Of course, you would have that. Competitions, you'd be limited to maybe a small youth domestic cup and the youth domestic league. Transfers are nothing to do with you. Player search, nothing to do with you. Boardroom, club vision stuff, nothing to do with you. Maybe they could set short-term goals within your area, maybe. But again, I'm not sure. Again, all this stuff, finances, again, very little to do with you. So it'd be a very much watered down version of the game that we already play. But, and the but's pretty big, viewers. I have seen this wanted and suggested for a decade. There is clearly a demand for this. And just because I think it's a bit boring and I don't think there's much point in it, doesn't mean that other people think the same as me. And I'm smart enough, I'd like to think, to realise that. So there might be a point with Football Manager where they have to think, give the people what they want. And then, when no one plays it, take it out. I don't know if that's the solution. But yeah, not for me. But there is an endless demand for this. This is a very short one from Nathan. Minor one. More variation in celebrations on the match engine. Yes. That was very easy, Nathan. Thank you. Yes. Good one. All right, Luke, again, simple. I love some of the simple ones are great. VAR, referee run, skip button, please. Yes. Or speed it up. Or just do it comically quickly. Like, I don't mind. Yeah, I don't need this. VAR generally needs tweaking to me massively because you have a situation where I've played the game for 1,500 hours this year. I don't think the offside flag's gone up and the lino's been wrong. So can we have it maybe occasionally they do get it wrong and the goal stands? Because I know every time. The worst thing about Football Manager, for me personally, is when it becomes predictable. And VAR in Football Manager is terrifyingly predictable. So either let us skip it completely or make it more nuanced and different. Because right now, I'm not a big fan of it in real life. I hate it more in Football Manager, and that says something. Variation is important. I think a lot of these features come down to variation as well. Jordan's put something here. This one is fascinating to me because I see this one all the time. Better / more in-depth view systems. I'd love it that you could track your regens at your club from a younger age. Legally they can't, so just to clear that up now. And choose which ones to sign. Currently it's too random. They would argue that's already a thing, right? They give you a list of like 20 regens and you take the 6 best or something like that. It makes no sense that a club with a god tier youth facilities can go years without generating a good player. Do I agree with that statement or not? There are definitely clubs that don't produce world-class players on a regular basis, even if that club is world-class. There is a big difference between producing a top 100 player in the world and a top 1,000 player in the world, right? And I would argue that the big clubs, in terms of Football Manager, in terms of making like 4-star players or 3.5-star players, they are top players in world football if they're being generated at that club. The ability for them to create world-class players is that bit more difficult. And again, if you're a club, and I suggest this probably comes from frustration with that when you rise through the leagues, and this is something that isn't clear, and I'm kind of on board with the idea that there should be a little bit more depth in this, is that when you're a team that rise from maybe League 2 or from the conference or something like that, right, or the Vanarama National as it's known now, I'm very old, that you don't necessarily know how good you're getting players in from the age of 10 or 11. How long does it take for my facilities to impact the regens that I get, the new gens that I get? That's something I don't know the answer to, and I don't think anyone knows the answer to. And is it just a case of it happens randomly, or is it a case of if you've got these facilities, that player coming into the youth system at 8 years of age then takes 8 years, and then when they're spat out at the end of the 8 years into your youth intake, they're really good. But we don't know the process in between. I would like to know the process in between. I'm sure you would like to know the process in between. How long does... Because otherwise, am I investing in facilities at a club that I'm at short term for no reason? See? We need to know the answers. Is it to do with youth recruitment? Is it to do with coaches? I feel like there's not... Maybe that's part of it. Maybe the idea is we're not supposed to know. Like that's something with Football Manager. There are things in Football Manager we're not supposed to know. Maybe that's one of those things. Okay, there are so many suggestions. If you sent me one on Twitter, thank you so much. There are so many here. I'll try and pick a few more that have got quite a few likes on them because it's just a few people thought they were good. Michael here, the ability to take jobs at under 21 reserve level. I've covered that in quite a lot of detail. Option to design your new stadium or stadium expansions to how you want them to look. I don't think I should be allowed to design it. I'm not the architect. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm the football manager. We've got to remember that. We are the football manager, not the architect. This would be fun, but ultimately not part of the remit of what it is to be a football manager. What I would like, especially if I've been at the club for some time, you know when they announce the new name of the stadium and they choose Arsenal Arena or something, give me a list of 5 options, or let me customly put one in, or let me suggest one. That's all I want. That's all I want. That's not a lot to ask, right? But I don't want to play at the Arsenal Arena or whatever it's called. I don't want to play it. I want to be able to have some little bit of choice and decision making. I don't have to make the actual decision, maybe, if that's the compromise. But I'd like to be able to suggest rather than just being told it's been called Newcastle Arena or something. Like, you get what I'm saying. So yeah, I agree with that. Good feature request. All right, I want to make sure I get down enough. Someone's there suggested a naked streamer show. Absolutely not, Mike. Yeah, I appreciate your suggestion, but it'll be a no from all of us, other than probably Zealand. Zealand will definitely do it. Barb's has put just a decent match engine. It is a decent match engine. There are flaws in that. We could do a whole video on the match engine, but that's nonsense, isn't it? It is a good match engine. It's just not perfect. It's very difficult to make a perfect one. For me, then there has to be more multiplayer online modes that work with some kind of ranking system, competitive format around it. The game risks being left behind if not improved. Hope you and the family are well. That's a feature that I'm going to get on board with. That last bit there. Agree. Yeah, we could do a whole video on this, but let's wait and see what FM announce. I want to have to name a squad to travel for away games, says David. What? Why? We'll move on. Dynamic youth ratings for countries. Yes. And I hit my desk and say yes. Yes, right now, if they are based upon what they are at the very start of the game, I don't believe they change. So if a team become really good over time, their youth rating stays pretty much the same. They don't improve over the course of a 20-year save. It's not good. I agree. If I'm wrong on that, someone inform me. Do you know what? This is something that annoyed me recently, so I'll bring this up. Ali said, be able to train a number of players and praise them in training. Select a number of players and praise them in training. One of my most hated screens, you know the screen that comes up and it says players that have trained well and players that haven't trained well. I can only praise or have a go at the top one. Why? It's this screen here. This is the one that annoys me. I can praise Acacio here, right? And unfortunate, really, I've got everyone loves me at Thames, so there's no problems here. So I don't have to do this. But for Pintado, I can't just click and then praise in the same way. I have to right-click his profile and go, no. I should be able to just click them and it should just change and become the focused one. So you see that one's green. If I click that one becomes green. I can praise and make it scrollable as well, so I can scroll through the whole. Also, player training. This is something someone did suggest somewhere. In training, I'd like a report on how they're doing in terms of training every week, if that makes sense, right? So if he's having a 9.15 there, is his training getting better or is his training getting worse, or is it staying the same? I would love there to be a graph that just shows me if he's training well or not, because then if a player's not training well over an extended period of time, you can figure out why and then make decisions on that. Just a thought. I should have replied to my own tweet, it turns out. See, some of the suggestions. I mean, why not? In fairness, why not? Let your manager wear a hat. Think of the options. Oh, that's interesting. Tony said, I'd like an agent for the manager, which could help you use clubs. We don't have agents, do we? But no staff have agents, I don't believe. Do they? I'll double check. I've had a look through, can confirm. Staff do not have agents. Would it be nice for me to be able to select my own agent, like with his own characteristics, and he would maybe negotiate the contracts for me? I mean, that could go really badly. I don't know. Maybe they help handle. I don't know if you need an agent. Is it necessary? I guess is the question. Probably not. An interesting point. We don't have them. I quite like this from Ollie. Ollie suggested that we can tell players to warm up on the bench. I would like that as an option. Put it on the game screen. You know, you've already got data there. When you click over to the players that are on the bench, you just tell them to click them to warm up for 10 minutes. I quite like that. Yeah. And if you don't tell them to warm up, they have a higher chance of injury. I am on board. I've never seen that in 10 years. That's a great feature suggestion. Yes. Tell players to warm up. I mean, it's a lot of admin, but it does make the match day feel a little bit more involved. I like that one. See, Chaos, you just don't... What do you mean? What does this mean? A player career? It's football. It's called Football Manager. I'm moving on. I'm not saying he's got a FIFA card, and that's aided that suggestion, but I'm just saying. I asked the community what they want. Peter says nothing. It's already over detailed. Peter wants to say, let's take away some features, shall we? I'll be honest, Peter, I just wouldn't have replied there. But, I mean, it's fine. The ability to compare more than 2 players at a time. Yes. Even if it's 4, we'll take 4, and then we'll want 10. But for now, I would like to be able to compare more than 2 players at a time. Yes. Thank you, Brian. Good suggestion. Set piece coaches. Yes. Formations for in and out of possession. See, that's tricky, isn't it? There has been a lot of talk. I've seen it recently, actually, over these screens, right? And they're very much divided into... This is divided into 4 sections, and you have different things for different things. Attacking width, right, is quite straightforward. It's very, again, these are very much for in possession. Like the fact you can't have in possession and out of possession tactics. You kind of do... see, this is difficult. You kind of do based on player roles. If I'm in possession, right, and I'm playing a 3-back and I'm playing a libero on attack, he doesn't sit in the position where you first have a libero, right? He sits almost where Salatiel is there. So, in a sense, with and without the ball possessions do exist, it just depends on what roles you have, right? If you have a wing-back who's playing on attack, that when you're in attack, he will play further forward. I don't think you should have to change the entire system based on when you're with and without the ball. And player roles play a huge part in that. What I would suggest you do, if you're not sure on what those positions are like, is that when you go onto maybe a match analysis screen, or a quick way to do it is at the end of games. So, for example, you go onto these screens, you click analytical data, and you just take a look at where your players are featuring based upon the roles in which they're playing and how those change game to game. Of course, that's something you have to keep an eye on. And I think having more individual player facts and stats would be better. If I could throw something into the mix here, I know I asked you guys, but if there's something I would have, so for example, let's use Peter Randrup as our example. On the stats and the form and the analysis screens, right, I would like to be able to see a lot more information based on this player over the course of the last 5 to 10 to 20 to season long of how he's played over the course of a season. So, for example, average position would be one of those examples. If I we'll bring up Brighton as our example. I really hope he played in the Brighton game. God damn it, he didn't play against Brighton. Also, this is kind of needed, but is a bit long as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, average position wise then, so you can see the overall average position of my player. You can see is without the ball and with the ball. What I'm getting at is I would like to see this exist where I could see it across loads of different games, so I get an idea of where he's playing throughout the course of 5 games or 10 games or 30 games. And right now you can't really do that. That is data, to my mind, that would exist for real football teams and would be allowed to be given to managers, right? So I want that data. I would like more information on all of these things. I think this screen can be so much deeper with what he's doing, right? If I looked at, and this is just like the coach report for the player, I can't change any of these on the player stats, and we know, based upon how many things you can select and insert on these columns here, I can add so much in that I cut, but it's not easily accessible for just one player at any one time, and I really wish it was. That's something I would change. So I think that's kind of what this person said, but I've expanded quite a lot. He asked for formations in and out of possession, and I went on a rant about that. Basically, I think that does exist for formations in and out with possession. Okay, this one here has got 79 likes. Saw this somewhere else, but I mean, it stole it and got 79 likes for it. A graph that shows how player value changes over time. There are progression graphs that already exist. This could be added to that, maybe. I don't know if you just set it at the end of every month. That would work for me. I quite like that. Value is often dependent on reputation as much as it depends on everything else, though. So sometimes a player value will change massively just on where they are club-wise. Like, player values are quite difficult. So I don't know. The graph might look ridiculous, but I guess it would give you an idea of how they're progressing. Yeah, and obviously it depends if their contract is getting lesser and all these things. 79 people liked it, so it's clearly something people would like, but it's quite complicated, that one. Previously played for search filter in the scouting section. This kind of exists, but doesn't. I'll show you what I mean. Just doing teaching today, viewers. So if you go to players and then filters, you can see you can do trained at. And so you can kind of see players that were there, but not really. Obviously, you can do things like favourite club, but that doesn't necessarily mean they played for that team. I see what you mean. You can do trained at like Thames, for example, though, or trained in the nation or club. I assume these numbers are ages. Yeah, so you can kind of do it, but not really. I can't find out if a 27-year-old played for me or not. That's the only problem. Unless, of course, he trained there, like Kerr Brown did, for example. Oh, what a career he's had. All right, let's fire through. I'll give you my thoughts on some other suggestions that I've got, because again, we've got so many. All right, what have we got here? Chris has put a button for yelling at the referee. It wouldn't really do anything, but it would make me feel a little bit better. I agree, and so do other people. Okay, someone here, this has got a lot of likes, so we'll go with this one. Being able to use a hybrid system, 3-4-3 when attacking, 4-4-2 when defending, for example. The team I support, Bruges, do this, Braga, do this a lot, but Liverpool City and many others do this too. This must be a tactical evolution for FM. We kind of talked about it. Roles kind of dictate how this changes. I don't love it. I think it can be a bit broken, and that's the issue I have with it. It happens in real life because it's a bit more realistic in real life. It's very realistic in real life. If you did it outside of it, what's to stop someone attacking in a certain system and then retreating into like a 5-4-1 at every opportunity, so they never lose the ball, but then as soon as they get it, they break out into this new system? The argument would probably be, well, that wouldn't work. Sometimes that would cause you to concede goals. You're right, but there's a risk that could become overpowered. I don't hate the idea. I like that because again, you're right, it happens in real life, but I think it maybe brings about more problems than it does more solutions. Anyway, just a thought. And as I sort of said before, player roles kind of do that already. Tell subs to warm up. More people suggesting this. I love that. Yes. I say it every year. Alan's trying to get this one out there, so for his sake, we'll read it. I say it every year, the social feed. You should be able to see what your players are posting and monitor it in terms of fines and inappropriate posts. Maybe staff roles as a social media manager or something like that. Okay, so this got 50 likes, so people obviously would like a version of this. Legally, Football Manager can't get Bruno Fernandes to say something he's not actually said. So that is why that doesn't exist within the game. For Regens, and this is a bigger part, I call them Regens, they're actually new gens, I'm aware, but I still call them Regens. I think there should be a lot more freedom with what they can do, say, act, perform like, do things. They're not real people, so let's give them a bit more of a personality beyond that. It also makes the game a little bit more interesting beyond all the players that we recognise being out of the game. Some people don't play beyond the real players leaving. I feel like if players had a bit more personality, it would encourage you to play further on. We'll see if any of these things, and there were so many suggestions. Feel free to go to my Twitter and flick through and see which ones you agree with and maybe debate with those people if you think, or at least be nice to them as a minimum. I can't go through every suggestion. Maybe we'll do a follow-up video on this, and maybe in the comment section. We've done a Twitter version, now we'll do a YouTube version. Comment section, get involved. Again, they're going to announce stuff soon, I think. I don't know. I genuinely don't know when. Hopefully it'll be soon. And yeah, we'll obviously be able to talk through all the ideas that come our way. And if any of these suggestions make it in, tweet me again and let me know they were listening or they made the decision 2 years ago and it finally got implemented. There are options there. I'm looking forward to it though. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. Want to see more of this type of thing, make sure you subscribe. I'm going to be bringing you loads of different Football Manager news over the course of the next few weeks in regards to FM22, new feature announcements, reactions, thoughts, opinions, and I'm hopefully going to get some of those from you as well. It's going to be a good time. Hopefully you're looking forward to it. We love with care. FM22. Until next time, see you again very, very soon. We're out. FM22 news. Come on, it's already September. Come on.